have Gennady Litvin from the law office here at Moshes talking about a very important topic today. And this is actually probably part one to his office presenting some information to us, and that's going to be fair housing. This is such a deep topic. It's an important topic to myself and our organization and our commitment to educating the consumer and being a public servant. So Gennady, I'm going to give it right to you since this is such a heavy topic. I ask that for those that ask questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat box, and we'll be happy to get to them as we get closer towards the end of the meeting. So thank you, Gennady, for doing this. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for dialing in on this beautiful Friday morning. I'm going to start with the end in mind here. I'm not going to start with the beginning. As you can see, hopefully, I'm sharing on my screen one of the newest and most recent developments. Hi, Gail. Is that Governor Cuomo has now signed into legislation allowing the Department of State to pull our licenses, revoke our licenses if we are found to be in violation of the fair housing rules. And this literally just came out, I believe it was at the beginning of this week. So this was a great time for us to be joining this meeting and kind of this conversation to talk about what is fair housing, what are we looking out for, and essentially the do nots, the don'ts of our regular practice and what we're doing on a regular basis. So just in a nutshell, I'm not going to go into any of the legalese for you guys. Here's basically what the governor signed in. This is the code. Basically what this is the fair housing code. This is the code that as it relates to the powers the Department of State has over real estate agents. And you see here in green, they've added language where it now says, or for violation of Article 15, which is fair housing, they now have the right to revoke the license of a broker or a salesman. Now, that is a very thin connection in between kind of the real estate agent and the possible tenant or the landlord where fair housing comes in. Let me just go off by saying it's not only real estate agents, it's not only brokers, it's not only landlords that are bound by these regulations. And in essence, we've got federal and state rules and laws that guide us on the fact of fair housing. So what we cannot discriminate on. So let me just pull up the categories here that I have. And this is basically from the Attorney General's office here, from their website directly. So federal rules make it illegal for us to discriminate on the basis of race, family status, color, national origin, depending on where they're from, religion, disability, or sex. Now we have the New York State human rights laws. They also protect certain characteristics that the Federal Housing Act doesn't touch on. Here we have sexual orientation, creed, age, military or marital status, so whether single or married. And then we have even further protection that New York City provides us with. It's going to be gender, citizenship status, so depending on what type of citizenship status you're in, landlord, us as agents, we can't make a determination on the application based on their citizenship status. And based on financial status. And that's a biggie but goodie for all of us. What does that mean? We can't go ahead and treat anyone with vouchers differently when it comes to showing units or when it comes to trying to rent or sell these units. This all comes out of an investigation. I think most of you will remember. Last year, there was a few brokerages in Long Island that then hit the papers where there was systematic discrimination that the Department of State found. And this is where the change in law comes in from. Things to mention that in terms of who is bound by these rules. So it's not only landlords and agents. We also are covering staff of management companies. We also are covering staff of real estate companies. So whether you're licensed or not, let's say you have administrative teams, they're part of you. So don't think that just because you're not making the call or the final decision that you're going to be off the hook. Next, we also have, if there are rental agencies that are doing consulting work, they're also going to be governed by fair housing and all of the requirements. And the bottom line is, when you are faced with a landlord or property owner that is giving us strict and direct rules and guidelines in terms of who they want as tenants and who they want as next owners, you are the tip of the sword when it comes to educating them and notifying them as to what can be and cannot be done. You cannot go off and use the defense that, well, I didn't do anything or I didn't say anything because of the fact that it was the landlord, it wasn't me. That's not going to be an excuse. It's not going to be an excuse that the landlord only wants a particular religion. It's not going to be a particular excuse that the landlord doesn't want to deal with anything for disabilities as well. Disabilities is a big thing. If a landlord needs to put a ramp to access the building, that's something that needs to be done, because then the ADA comes in and they can provide them with the violation, and not only you if you are discriminating against those with disabilities. Family status, right? So if we have a family of, let's say, 2 children, and a landlord doesn't want children in the unit they're looking to rent out with you, that's not something that you can put out or marketing listing or even use as a barometer for the applications that you are going to be accepting. That is discrimination on familial status, and that's a biggie. Let's go back to what probably all of us are dealing with on a regular basis: vouchers, subsidized tenants. Can our landlords deny vouchers? And, I'm going to say, in combination with federal and state and New York City, I'm going to say no. Unless you're a single family or 2-family property, you cannot be denying vouchers. And these are very important elements for all of us to keep in mind, because whether we're real estate rental agents or whether we are sales agents, at the end of the day, the rules apply the same way. If you are listing a property and the seller tells you not to accept viewings from a particular race, from a particular gender, from something that's limiting, you've got to educate them and notify them right away that that's not something that you can do.
Gennady, I just want to go back for a second because it's important. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to go back to make sure we have a clarification. So you mentioned something about 1-2 families with vouchers, because especially during these times of these tough times in New York City right now, we know that some agents are receiving calls about those folks that are looking for housing. And one of the things that came up, there's quite a few, and we actually were having a special guest in a couple of weeks talk about vouchers and what it means and how much they can get and what the landlord can get to educate our agents. Can you just touch on, when you mentioned 1-2 family occupants, can you just touch on that just one more time?
Yeah, sure. If